So it's come to my attention that ever since Madam Web came out, a lot of people have been being weird when it comes towards the MCU. See, you got a bunch of people that are basically just fanboys that refuse to admit that the MCU is just fucking dead. But then you have people that essentially are arguing towards exactly when did it die? What was the major issue? When was it really bad? Or what was still possibly good? Or can it even come back? And the fact remains that it's dead. You know, there's nothing that could possibly be done within the MCU or for Marvel or Disney for that matter that will redeem all of its bad press as well as have people trust it to actually do good by these characters that they hold the rights to. So one of the odd misconceptions behind this is that essentially, you know, like Deadpool's a step in the right direction. They're gonna the new casting for the next Fantastic Four, since they're all white people, that's a good thing. It's not a good thing because you still have the same fucking writers. Kevin Feige is still in charge of everything. All these people that have basically been fucking this stuff over since way into the beginning of the franchise actually mattering are the same people that are still in power. Remember, they fired the damn what was her name? Victoria Alonso chick, who essentially was one of the main people screwing up their whole visual effects department. Yet, she was also one of the main people constantly hiring everyone to essentially have the same jobs today that are doing the projects that are still going on. That shit never stopped. It's only recently they started getting rid of a bunch of people within Disney, but a lot of companies have been doing that because they're firing people who have jobs that essentially were not real jobs in the first place. And now that they don't have money to just throw at them aimlessly, well, they're starting to get rid of them. But you see the problem that essentially is coming to play with a bunch of the nerd community, if you will, is that you have them at this disadvantage of understanding exactly what the fuck is going on, or looking at things from the perspective of like, hey, you know, not all of this stuff is connected, let alone all of these things should be categorized or put in the same spot. What I mean by that is essentially with Madam Web. Madam Web, for whatever reason, I mean for whatever fucking reason, is being classified as an MCU movie. And I do not know why. It's not an MCU movie. It's from Sony. Sony owns Spider-Man shit. So they can do whatever the fuck they want with Spider-Man, but that ain't got nothing to do with the MCU. Yet, because it's associated as a superhero movie, for whatever reason, it's now getting into the point where they're only breaking down shit as if it's from the big two. So, if you're not related to DC, then obviously you must be MCU. And that could be further from the truth. These other corporations and companies own the rights to these characters in these movies, and there's a reason that they're handling them the way that they're handling them. Sony, for whatever dumb fucking reason, for the small group of people who listen to this and even want to comment on it, I don't care, but take this to heart. For whatever reason, Sony's attempt at using a bunch of Spider-Man villains and not Spider-Man is the most irresponsibly dumb fucking thing you could ever possibly imagine. Madam Web had so much shit in it. I didn't even do a review for Madam Web because of how goddamn bad that movie was. Because it wasn't even funny bad. It was just bad. And Madam Web had so much shit in it that essentially was like, if you were a fan of Spider-Man, then you understood all the references. But it didn't mean anything. It didn't go anywhere, it didn't mean anything, and it didn't do nothing. I mean, it had Ezekiel Sims in it, and it's like, that's not who Ezekiel Sims was, it's not how he was introduced, and really, who gives a fuck? But we've gotten to the point where superhero movies are made with that mindset. I mean, fuck, everything that's being done is essentially an adaptation is being made with that mindset. So, it must have been okay. I mean, fuck, they just did the fucking Avatar Last Airbender live action on Netflix, and much like the One Piece, they changed shit that they wanted to change because they thought it was good. And realistically, the only thing people asked for was to just do a legit one-to-one adaptation, which would have been fine. That's all you need to do. If you're cutting out some episodes because of runtime or whatever, all right, fine. But I mean, these same people who were so hell-bent on not making the same mistakes M. Night Shyamalan did, they, like, one of the first things they did before the series even came out was that they stated that Katara was going to be the older sibling over Sokka. I know I'm going on a tangent and I'm going off a train of thought, but still, the fact remains that essentially the same shit Netflix does to these live action series is the same shit the MCU does to their comic book adaptations. It's the same shit Sony's doing to anything related to Spider-Man, and it's the same shit that's being handled with DC. These people aren't fans of the content. I mean, fuck, they're about to do the X-Men 97. That show had so much positive press behind it before they released a goddamn trailer. I mean, you had it to where the showrunner even stated they fired anyone who essentially was working on The Witcher from Netflix, or anyone who purposefully did not watch the old original X-Men cartoon series. And they were so happy about that. People were so glad that they was like, finally, they're learning from their fucking mistakes. They're doing things for the fans. They're doing things for the people who are asking for this, not because they want to push an agenda. And what happened? That goddamn trailer came out. They wanted to push an agenda. It was blown all in your face, and they drew everybody ridiculous. And for some reason, getting old voice actors to come back seemed like a smart idea to them. Because, yeah, that made sense. It really doesn't. Hell, the voice actor for Jubilee was like, I'm not Asian. I should play an Asian. I'm not Asian. That's not a thing. You're voice acting, bitch. Fuck. If Jubilee sounds a certain way, if you can sound that way, then you can be Jubilee. That's how that works. You don't have to be the race of Jubilee, but, go fuck yourself. So the issue that essentially that's happening currently is that you're having so much miscommunication and essentially mob mentality towards the appropriation of shit that you have it to where people are still looking. They're like, even in the the dissecting of what went wrong with the MCU, so many people cherry pick exactly what the problem is. Well, the TV shows were ultimately the bad thing, but Loki was kind of good. No, all the shows are bad. They're all poorly written. Loki doesn't make any fucking sense. It ruins so much within the continuity of everything that happens within the MCU, even after these motherfuckers established time travel. Then when you established Loki, you made it just 1,000 times worse. And the only reason you did that is because you wanted a female Loki to be a part of your female Avengers initiative, which now they're backtracking on because no one likes the female characters that they have in the MCU. So, what the fuck does that tell you? That tells you that you basically got a series built around a concept that ain't never going to come to pass, yet we're still going to get those little young female Avengers things because they're going to do that. They doubled down on that. They're going to do that because if that gets a pass, that's fine. But they've kind of pulled away from just having an all-females Avengers because nobody wants that. Hell, they talked about that in the reshoots for the next Captain America movie as to the fact that they got rid of She-Hulk, a bunch of the other characters. Believe like now it's being stated that Brie Larson ain't going to be Captain Marvel anymore. Who gives a fuck? But the point remains that essentially having this miscommunication where you're kind of slopping everything all together and then just trying to still give a pass because, you got some rose-tinted glasses on in order for you to understand what the fuck was happening with the MCU or when you liked it and you thought it was okay. That doesn't change the fact that essentially these people have been fucking up for a long time and they're going to continue to fuck up as long as you keep giving them money. We've steadily been showing that no one is interested in the dumb shit that Sony's been doing. Yet Sony keeps making these fucking movies. And the fact remains that for whatever reason, Sony is going to wait until the last moment to get their shit together because of how Sony has been working themselves, so to speak. I mean, they took their headquarters from Japan, moved into California, got a bunch of Californians to tell the whole entire Sony corporation exactly what it is consumers would want. And history has shown us that Californians are not normal people. So when it comes to normies trying to understand or get into something, the Californian mindset is the worst mindset you could possibly fucking have. But that's what Sony doubled down on. And so now their games, their games, their entertainment stuff, so their movies, TV shows, all this shit that basically got nothing but Californian writers and whatnot, and is just doubling down on every possible dumb fucking idea that's a trend, a fucking fashion statement, a goddamn multi-diversity hire, or some type of freaking political inclusion or whatever. All of that shit is being done within Sony right now because they're at a position where that's the only thing they want to do. But that has done nothing but bite them in the ass since they started doing it. And so, upon them doing Madam Web, which was the idea of, well, since we got Spider-Man, we want to do superhero, let's get a female character that's within Spider-Man, and then just have a whole array of shit with her around in it. And that is somehow going to connect or establish something or be meaningful to somebody for some reason. Does any regular person know who the fuck Madam Web is? No. Are you that in tune to what it is that Madam Web does in the comics? No. So what would be a perfect way to introduce her to where people will be interested in learning more about her, much like they did when they had that happen in the fucking comics? Oh, I don't know, have her interact with dear Spider-Man? Fucking idiots! But rather than do that, it was, let's go the roundabout way of doing this. And then by doing it the way that they did, by making the movie that they did, which again, I didn't do a review on, but it's like in a small little close summary, the movie is so unwatchably bad. There's no redeeming quality in the movie whatsoever. It's just unrelentlessly. It should be used at a perfect thing that I thought about. That movie should be perfectly talked about in like a film class for how to make like the worst possible movie imaginable. Thinking about the time that it came out, the subject matter it tackled, the continuity of what it is that it was trying to handle, the inclusion that it had for in terms of like, you know, just women only, men bad, the side character breakdowns, the emotional breakdowns, all that shit should be done in a character study for a film class when you want to know exactly how not to make a movie. Even the time in which the movie came out. And then in turn, the genre that was booming at the time, or the genre that was steadily in decline, in contrast to when that movie came out as well. All that shit should be taken into account. And that would be a wonderful character study. Not character, but study for like any type of film fucking class. But essentially, you had this weird ass fucking opposition towards everything imaginable when it came to Madam Web. That was like, yeah, there's no way any regular person is going to want to look at this. But for whatever reason, Sony completely disregarded that shit and then brought the movie out to the masses anyway. It's the same fucking thing that happened with Morbius. They got some success with the first Venom because Venom, but it's like, look at the parameters of what you were working with. Venom's a popular character. He's been a popular character for fucking decades. People love the villain of Venom. He's now an anti-hero. And the concept of Venom has been done within different iterations of Spider-Man, games, movies, you name it. So the idea of just having a movie based around him isn't that far-fetched if you're expecting to make some type of profit. But the sequel to Venom, you handle it like they handle all superhero movies. It was terrible because of that aspect. And then you sat there and brought out a movie like Morbius, and to show your complete lack of understanding of the masses, you idiots were tricked into showing the movie. Like, you put the movie back in theaters because you thought the internet was telling you they want to see the movie again. You can't tell me that whoever was responsible for that bullshit did not get fired. They should have gotten fired. You should have got fired with no type of stipend whatsoever. You get nothing. You get nothing when you leave here, you unbelievable dumbass. And then the idea of doing nothing but villain movies towards Spider-Man characters should have been completely removed off the goddamn table. You're trying to incorporate a Sinister Six movie. It's not gonna fucking work. It's not going to make any sense. And most likely you're going to try and use Tom Holland. And that's also going to be even worse. So trust me, this is a bad idea. What you're doing is a bad idea, and it shows. But people need to understand that ain't got shit to do with the MCU. That's Sony. That's all Sony. Sony is perfectly capable of making their own standalone Spider-Man film franchise. But because they keep associating themselves the same way that these fucking dumbass nerds are doing, they think, oh, we need Tom Holland, we need Zendaya, we need these characters that have already been established as Spider-Man within the MCU in order for our Spider-Man to actually gain any traction. Motherfucker, you can handle this shit like Batman. You can find a new actor to play Spider-Man. You can find another actor to play Mary Jane. You can incorporate these characters well within to their own years without actually needing to establish an origin story, and people will go watch that fucking movie. You could have your Sinister Six that way. You'd be fine then. You'd be cool then. And then you could do another slew of Spider-Man movies and whatnot. But you don't need to do dumb shit like add in Miles Morales or add in Silk, which is another thing they're going to fucking do because they're about to add a Silk TV show apparently. And they just fired all the writers from there. And then they went, we're going to do this for a male audience, which means that they ain't going to do nothing but have her do a bunch of hoe shit because their idea of male writers for a male audience is probably going to be a majority of gay dudes writing for it because why? They're in California. I'm not being mean towards anyone. I'm just stating the facts that have been presented. This shit has gotten out of control. These people need to be stopped. The stuff that's happening to these beloved characters and treasured iconic moments is horrendous. They haven't done anything close to resembling what the fuck comics have done with these characters that were iconic and memorable moments. Fuck, I just watched the DC, the Infinite, Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1. And I was so goddamn bored. And it's an animated DC movie. And DC outshines Marvel when it comes to the animated shit 1,000%. But for whatever reason, the animation was really choppy. The effects that they had on there were very sluggish. The fucking Scooby-Doo movie that came out involving DC characters looked a hell of a lot better than it. And then the writing of it was basically, it's similar to the Flashpoint or the Brave Frontier of Justice League movies, where just everything revolved around the Flash, and because of that, it was hard to get interested or care about any other type of fucking character because you didn't do anything. And it was just so unbelievably boring. And then it ended on a goddamn endgame note because that's all that it was setting itself up to be. And it's just, you actually have the prospect of doing something similar to Infinite Crisis. You're not bogged down by basically dealing with actual live action actors or whatnot, and you're doing it within an animated series. Take the fucking book and animate that bitch. For whatever reason, those are your more highly respected fucking animated movies. Why aren't you doing that? When they did The Dark Knight Returns as an animated movie, that is one of the best DC animated movies out there. And all it is just straight up taken from the book, the art style, the look, the feel, and it's great. Yeah, there's pieces of it missing, but it's like, that's what we expected. You can't get everything in there. That's fine. Fuck, why haven't they done an animated version of The Watchmen? I don't know. What the fuck is wrong with you people? And it's like you have all this content that you can make that essentially no regular person has ever seen. Normies don't know about this shit. So when you present it to normies, this is all that they've ever known to expose it, to expose them to this. So it's like only thing that they can see is what it is that's being placed in front of them. So if you place in front of them what it is that's beloved by the fans, then they're going to like it by fuck. I'm losing my train of thought because I'm getting so angry. They're going to like it by association because that's always how that works. So even then, it's like you might get half of the normie market to become fans, but you're going to please the fans 100%. But then you might get half of the chunk of the normies that are interested in it to become now new fans, and then they might spread it through word of mouth, and then the shit would become bigger than hula hoops. And that you will have no skin off your bones because you wouldn't have need to do any type of diversity change. You wouldn't even need to go in, reorganize characters, go based off of what the new fucking comics are or anything like that. But just tackle and handle these characters the way how they were tackled and handled that drove them to popularity in the first fucking place. I'm gonna end on this note because it's something to think about. I talked about this when I did my Deadpool Wolverine video. I spoke about that. And the thing is that for whatever reason, these people who are now in charge of shit that they don't really care for, they just want money. And it's like, even if that's the case, what I'm explaining to you is that this is a way to how to get your money and just do shit that people will care about. And it's no type of effort whatsoever, aside from having people sitting in the room telling them, this doesn't seem like it would fit a modern audience. Yes, it would, because a modern audience is asking you for it. They just want what it is that made that special, which is some shit that was done in the past. The fucking director of Insomniac was like, he wants Mary Jane to be showcased as a hero as well, to give you the idea that anyone can be a hero. The fucking Into the Spider-Verse movie handled that concept better by having Mary Jane speak at Peter Parker's funeral, to which they implemented a Spider-Man joke as well as introduced the entire concept of what it is to be Spider-Man, while also not being confused with the notion that just because you exist, you can also be Spider-Man. But no, any hero can wear the mask, but only Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Fuck out of here. So the idea, like, from what the Insomniac director dumbass did, and he was like, well, I just wanted to show that even she could be a hero. But she's not the hero. One of the best aspects about Mary Jane is the fact that no matter what, she's there for Peter. Period. She's there for him. She'll go out in the field and risk her life to do something if it needs to be, but she's not supposed to be out there. She doesn't want to be out there, but she is there for him at the end of the fucking day. And if you cannot understand that or recognize that, then you probably shouldn't be handling Spider-Man, because you're a dumb motherfucker. And what it is that I was talking about with the Deadpool thing that I wanted to end on, sorry for going on another tangent, was that I mentioned the fact that the original iteration of Deadpool was a irrehensible villain of a character. Like, he was a bad guy. But they changed him within the comics to make him the Merc with the mouth that essentially became this funny, well-known anti-hero who's not opposed to killing. And the thing is that that's the more likable Deadpool. That's the Deadpool that became popular. So I have an issue with people who go, well, they're not handling Deadpool the way how Deadpool is. No, they're not handling Deadpool the way how Deadpool was initially. Same thing with She-Hulk. She-Hulk was someone who essentially could transform into the Hulk just like the Hulk did. And she would get all big, burly, and whatnot. And it wasn't until, she wouldn't be completely big and burly, but she would basically have the same tendencies that Banner did. But then they tweaked it and changed it to make herself her own character, which became the far more known and beloved character of She-Hulk. And the thing is that the people who handled the She-Hulk show completely misunderstood that concept. They did not grasp that that is what happened with that character. So they gave her the ability to fucking transform, which is something that people who know about She-Hulk go, why would she do that? And it's like, well, in the beginning, that's a thing. But later on, they got rid of it because it made it a more unique standpoint towards that character. And it worked. And so then that's when that character became popular, is when the shit that worked for it is what helped them grow. So then if that's what people know and identify and recognize, why are you not facilitating that? Why are you doing other shit? New shit that you're making up that does not even fucking sell. And the thing is that essentially that's the same thing that happened with Deadpool. And I believe that it was the most masterfully superhero movie that was, even though it's not superhero, if you want to split hairs or whatever, but that was the most masterful superhero movie that was tackled within that time frame because of the fact that they handled Deadpool that way. He knew the X-Men. He understood what was up within mutates and shit like that. They had him be an experiment being done on, and it wasn't to where they initially just straight up was like, well, this came from Wolverine or anything like that, but the tackling and handling of his character, as well as who it is that made Deadpool special, or what people recognize and understand as fun for the character of Deadpool. That first movie handled that perfectly. Second movie elevated it, but the first movie handled it perfectly. Because our second Deadpool movie is like one of the greatest comic book movies ever. But it's something to where it's like no lesson was learned because of that. You know, and it's like that movie came out and it did far beyond the expectations of Disney, to the point that Disney even believed the idea of releasing an R-rated movie with superheroes involved could not possibly make any fucking money. And it made more than generally a lot of the shit that they've been releasing within the MCU. And now, upon them having the rights to the Deadpool movie, they're going all in the motherfucker. So do you not see the ridiculous hypocrisy that's coming from these people and how utterly confused that they are? They're refusing to hire people that basically have been calling them trash all this time, even though those people will be the best ones to help you get your billions back. They're refusing to look into this content that actually was memorable and beloved, because even though that's what made those characters popular, they believe that the new train of thought behind these characters is what it is that people like, but those don't fucking sell. They're refusing to do the bare minimum to just get some type of a positive profit behind the acquisition of all these fucking characters. And this doesn't just revolve around the goddamn MCU or Disney or superhero movies in general, but even fucking with Star Wars. It's the same thing. And so it's like, I feel as though the companies themselves have already been fucking themselves over for the longest. But as consumers, you ain't gonna do nothing but fuck yourself over even more. The more you feed into excusing their actions by allowing the same trends that they're using to help facilitate shit to be used as to why you facilitate shit. So don't say Black Widow, don't say Madam Web is a part of the MCU. She's not. Don't include the Incredible Hulk in the MCU. It's not. It's a movie that was way before that even became a thing. These movies, like a lot of these, have to be looked at behind the company that's behind them, the association of what it is that they got going on, and the general direction that these companies are headed, and what it is that they're doing with these actual things, these individual properties, and why. They need to stop now and get their shit together, or they're just going to completely lose all and any credibility that they have to do anything. Because as much as everyone wants to sit there and give you this disheartening idea that no one wants to see superhero movies anymore or anything like that, that could be further from the truth. These characters and these concepts are things that have transcended a normal runtime or shelf life, if you will, that honestly just hasn't been tapped into. And despite the fact that essentially Infinity War and Endgame were one of the, two of the biggest movies to ever exist, you could have only gone up if you have just planned accordingly. But that isn't the case. And so because of that, I don't think that it's fair that everyone gets put in the same circle as those that essentially just flash the Marvel banner in front of their movies and then claim that it's associated with the MCU, because it's not. And this is all just fucking goofy, dumb shit. I don't know what to say. It's stupid. This is just fucking stupid. It's just getting dumber and dumber by the second. But I'm gonna go watch Dune on Friday, so whatever.